Thanks, everybody. Oh, I hope you're enjoying your time in Austin. Are you? Yeah. Have you been just drinking in the whole city and drinking? Okay, good.
Smell the barbecue everywhere.
Yes, barbecue, tacos. If you've had those things, you're doing it right. Thank you, everyone. We've got some people here who are going to give you some other really interesting perspectives, and I'm excited to hear from them. Nilla, wow, that was amazing. What do I start? I was going to start with you, but now that you just sort of blew through that, I'm actually going to go ahead. And I think one of the interesting things here that's come up as I've been listening is how media entities, how these publishers are evolving to get into this business and finding where the right spot for them is. And so, Leora, I actually wanted to start with you, if you don't mind, because Trusted Media Brands, as we were talking, went through this interesting evolution that started with what you said was a strength in direct marketing, and then it got into books, and then it got into other things. Can you tell us that evolution and how that happened?
Sure. Trusted Media Brands, if you don't know, is Reader's Digest, which probably a lot of people know, but also Taste of Home, Family Handyman, and a whole bunch of others. Those are the three core. It is people who love to do. I think there's been a focus here a lot on millennials and Gen Z, and I have to say we probably have a bigger focus on boomers and Gen X. So a little bit different. I think we're going younger. We definitely are. But it is a different audience, and they have different needs. So I think the company has done a great job maintaining their magazine profile. We have only shrunk single digits, while other companies have shrunk double digits in the last year. So really holding on to our base because we have great content. And I think something that's kind of resonated throughout the entire conference is the need for authority and authenticity. Without that, you're done. So we've been able to maintain that through books, and really that's a big business for us as well, and consistently is. So my job is really to take that audience and super deliver them, and as we were talking earlier, like that's 10 to 20% of your audience are just the most loyal customers and just want more and more from your brand. So my job is really to monetize that audience, and doing that by giving them what they want, whether that's more content, more skills, because our audience are doers with online learning, a more premium experience where they can interact with the brand and get access to kind of a super package of benefits, what we call bundling and unbundling of assets, or things to do better with our cooking brand. How can we're developing cookware so they can really manage the products, manage the recipes, and build make the products that they love so much in those recipes. So that's kind of what I go through.
That's great. And I should say I'm a big family handyman, aspiring family handyman. I'm not quite there, but maybe DIY is for me. Yeah. Elise, can you tell us about the Savor Cookware program that you guys are working on and the idea of super royalties, which really caught my ear when we were talking about that?
Right. Yeah, so a big part of what I'm doing up on your Corp is managing our outbound trademark licensing, and obviously Tasty's gotten into this very successfully recently, and it's where your trademark has a lot of elasticity beyond your own audience, and you could take your brand, put it onto product, have your licensee go out and sell product. Great if you're in Walmart because it's a great engine for reaching consumers. But wherever your products find the market, and then coming back at it from an affiliate perspective, so where you can be gaining that affiliate lead gen revenue on top of the royalty revenue that you're going to get paid from your manufacturer. So it's kind of like bringing the affiliate and the licensing thing together. So that's something we're going to be focused on at Bonnier Corp next year. We're going to be launching Savour cookware.
Savour, sorry. My bad.
It's okay. Savour, however you want to call it. But
forgive me for being pedestrian.
As they say at the office, it rhymes with cat fur.
That helps, actually. That helps a lot.
There's a video somewhere one of the old editors did online that he's trying
Savour,
to explain how to pronounce Savour, and that's the joke. So it's very interesting. And I think the big thing for talking about DTC, it really is about this conversation with consumers and leveraging a brand. When you have a great media brand that connects with your audience, you should be able to take that brand and leverage it beyond your audience through some of these other partnerships. Way more people bought Better Homes and Gardens products at Walmart than read or subscribed to the Better Homes and Gardens magazine. Even here at Bonnier, I joined just about a year ago, and we have a direct-to-retail partnership with Sears, and Sears is in a terrible state, and they declared bankruptcy also just about a year ago. And but the good news is that they were able to take the Outdoor Life brand and use it as a centerpiece of their private label operations. So we're going to be doing a lot of different things with Outdoor Life next year too.
Very cool, very exciting. Dominick, one thing I wanted to ask you about was when you have these competing prerogatives, right? What you got to do with your newsroom, how you're monetizing people. Where does an affiliate play rank in that in your organization versus other priorities?
And I think you actually introed it well, because for us, when I came on board Inquisitr, it wasn't in the most positive place in terms of revenue structure. And I'm not a hard man, but the first week when I had to restructure and let people go and come on, it was a tough moment. So for the past year and a half, the goal was get that structure down to allow us to do everything else. So we hit records in terms of revenue, in terms of growth, in terms of each channel. We've gotten really good at how do I get the eyeballs on that site. Now, especially when I watch today, ISIS and Nilla, I'm glad to see the percentage of people looking at their phones is greatly reduced, and they really got everyone. And I think that's the next evolution. So what we're doing is we're looking at our data, seeing where can I do the affiliate without losing the authenticity that got our audience back. We have a data analytics firm we use in Long Island where I'm based, and we've been analyzing just for the simple affiliate, if it's a noun versus an adjective and what introduction on that simple link keeps it naturally within. So I told the writers, we're not telling you we're putting links. I don't want you to have that influence on your writing. We need your authenticity. But we'll put the links in and see where that effect has occurred, because it was so hard to get us to where we are with authenticity after a year and a half. Now we're there. Now what do we do to not lose it, to also be able to do what ISIS and Nilla are doing amazingly well?
Okay, so walk me through that real quick, because you said you don't need to worry about putting in links, we'll put it in. What does that actually mean?
Functionally,
yeah.
We've been analyzing. The problem is when the writer is involved, I feel immediately authenticity drops. We'd like you to do X, Y, and Z with this and that product. Oh my goodness, my job's on the line. This is the best product forever. So we're trying to remove that from the equation. Your job is to be an authentic writer, to follow journalism as much as can be done with what we're doing. Now, at times, like we found certain stories have done exceptionally well, and we need to keep it further. So we're studying the data to say, what was it? So, for example, we found stories where you have a celebrity or notoriety commenting on something. Of course, blew it out of the ballpark and kept the original story. So we've not only analyzed the data in terms of placement of the link, we found certain paragraphs, the nature of the link, so it can't be a hard sell. It had to be a very soft sell. In addition, what I would do is I would survey the copy editors. How authentic was this story? Rate it from 1 to 10. And if it was further on, we'd analyze and cross-compare, we found higher success. So it had to have that high authority in terms of authenticity, as well as a link within it that was just natural, like Cindy Crawford likes to use bacon soap. That was the worst improvisation I've done all day. There's no bacon soap to be used, and I've never used such a thing. But if you can do it within that story, and it is a legitimate story, although the legitimacy of that, again, I question, but it does seem to have the best translation to a sale.
I was going to say, so
Please.
for us, it's actually a very different strategy in that we very explicitly are adding affiliate links, and we actually have a team of writers who are creating shopping content. Right. As I was saying earlier, for us, it is a very self-policing kind of strategy to implement, because if our editors are linking to products that they don't truly stand by, that don't actually have really strong reviews, and if we're driving to Amazon on a product page that has 3 stars, no one's going to win in that scenario, and the audience can very quickly see that that was a bad recommendation. So we almost embrace the fact that we are driving people to buy products. And again, we're using the data as to what they bought to create that content strategy. I think it's very different depending on what the nature of your business is. I think especially as news organizations are trying to do affiliate more and more, you have to approach it differently. But we've essentially said, this is our shopping content. We are very intentionally driving to product and very thoughtfully selecting which products we're driving to, and making that explicit to the reader. So we have like a very strong call to action with a link to the product, with the price, and even sometimes like offer alternative options for that product. And we've seen a lot of success for that, but I know that's not necessarily something every company can embrace right now.
Well, let's talk about data. Oh, sorry. Go
I was
ahead, please.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I think it is important to put on a merchant mentality so that you actually are in sync with what's going on from a merchandising calendar, which isn't generally that different from what's going on with an editorial calendar. They naturally do kind of sync up. You know, you're selling roasters the same time you're writing recipes about turkeys. So there is a natural alignment between content and merchandising. I do think from an affiliate perspective, you do have to have a little bit more of that merchant mentality. You know,
This is deer stands instead of,
yeah,
this is
that's
hunting
like-
knives instead of
right,
deer
this
stands
is like,
example, right?
Should your writer be writing articles about deer stands or hunting knives? And from a turn perspective, you sell a lot more hunting knives in the marketplace. I mean, you'd be surprised how big the hunting knife market is versus the deer stand market. And you know, the editorial guy might love this new deer stand, and he's all getting a new deer stand this year, and he wants to cover deer stands because, yeah, they're really important for that core hunter. But, you know, I'd rather have him write 10 articles about knives.
How do you guys manage this flow of information? Because data obviously is very much a theme here, and you know, you want to have both the merchandisers' sensibility about these things, but the data has to make it to the editorial teams as well, right? How do you manage that flow, and what works and what doesn't?
So I actually have a merchandiser on my team whose core function is essentially analyzing the data. And her background, she worked at Saks Fifth Avenue. Prior to this, I myself actually used to work at Ann Taylor as a merchandiser. So I think my whole team kind of comes from an e-commerce background. The editorial team actually has a function within their own team where they, on a weekly basis, are analyzing the content, seeing which content frames are the best, which products sold, which retailers are doing well. So they're constantly kind of educating themselves around where the opportunity is and what's resonating with their audience. And then my team, more so from the business side, is really keeping a constant pulse on the content and relaying any big opportunities that might be missed by the editorial team. What gets tricky is, again, certain posts might have a lot of scale in terms of traffic, so they could look like they're outperforming other posts in terms of sales, but there's oftentimes some posts that are a little bit more niche and maybe hit a smaller audience, but the conversion is really high. So it's important to identify what KPIs you really want to go after, and based on that, develop your strategy.
So in your case, conversion is a KPI. How do you guys treat that? Or do you give editorial people
Well, like I was
directives
saying,
like
it's
that?
an evolution for us. We're moving towards that. Where the data comes for us is purely we're taking the writer's anecdotal observations and testing them. Because for us, the KPI is the eyeballs. We need to make sure that people are reading that story and how far it's going. So very often, weekly staff meetings we'll have with 40 writers. What have you noticed? And I will literally document and kind of weed out the fringe stuff, and we will get the data team to take that anecdotal evidence and test it and see if it was just in their head or not.
For us, it's an evolution too. Our current editors manage the same process, the affiliate link. So it has been an education process because they aren't merchants, right? But they are interested in the content. It's a new franchise for them. They like writing it. And they love seeing the conversion. They love seeing that they're making money. So they're so used to chasing visits and page views that chasing dollars is actually super exciting to them. So we've gotten a lot of excitement about it. It's more that ongoing education and probably evolving to an organization that has dedicated merchant writers because you really have to understand what is resonating with the audience. So we do look at that data. What we're getting the biggest percentage affiliate rate on, right? So we're also trying to push that stuff if it works, right? It still has to be authentic. We're not going to push something just because, you know, everybody knows, I think, here that mattresses get the highest payout rate. But if it doesn't make sense in the story, then it doesn't make sense in the content or that for that audience, we can't do it. So it's really that combination of knowledge.
How do you handle a situation where, let's say you've got a content writer and they they're interested in product X, and then you've got people who are doing more of the shopping stuff, and they hate that thing, or vice versa. How do you manage if someone on the editorial side really doesn't like a product, but on the shopping side, it's a good affiliate opportunity? How does that get decided?
We try to keep it as open as possible. There's lifestyle writers who aren't necessarily shopping writers who will occasionally write a shopping post because it's a product that they're really enthusiastic about. I think the reality is not every single person in this room likes the same product. Like different people like different things. People have different affinities towards certain retailers. So we don't try to be too prescriptive about what people can and can't write. Ultimately, kind of our biggest guardrail is if the product has bad user reviews, we're not going to write about it. So even if an editor is like super enthusiastic about a product, if we're driving to a landing page or an experience that's going to be a bad user experience, that's where our editorial team will just say no. But as long as it's a product that makes sense for a certain market, there's kind of no restrictions about what we can and can't write. Where it becomes important is like, is the scale there? You don't want to write about a product that's only relevant to such a small audience where it's not necessarily going to move the needle, not even just in terms of affiliate data or affiliate KPIs, but just traffic. So it's just making sure that you're going after the opportunities that make sense for the overall business.
Sorry, go ahead, Dominick. Were you going to say something?
No, I 100% what she said. I think that we change the business with authenticity. So the second something knocks it out, I don't care if there's a revenue opportunity. I'm going to lose the authenticity. I'm losing something much greater at that point.
So the value of the authenticity is better than every...
To me, by far.
Yeah.
To me, by far.
So one way that I think people learn is by making mistakes. Can you guys share with us a mistake that was illuminating or that lodged deeply and helped refine your strategies, product development strategies?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like to say it happened before I started, but we were approached by a licensor that was like, we think coffee is going to be great. Everybody drinks coffee. Coffee's going to be great for your audience. We'll do everything.
Coffee's going to be big. Okay.
Coffee's going to be big. It's big. It's going to be branded. It's going to be great for your audience. We're going to market to your internal audience. We're going to get a huge external audience interested in this. We did our own research. Our research said that our audience was not that interested. And that's the beauty of affiliate. We could look at affiliate and see what people were buying. So they wanted to sell ground coffee. We saw that our audience actually buy K-cups. So we went for it anyway because there was really very low lift for us. So we were like, let's try it out. We hadn't done licensing in a while. It was before we started our cookware brand. And we jumped in, and there was very little interest, as we had expected. And we sent out emails, we pitched our own audience. And then it became a point where the cost of sending out an email to our audience was actually taking away from revenue from other products. So it just didn't make sense. So we had to kind of stop it in its tracks. But it just didn't work. You have to trust your gut. You have to trust your data and sell what your audience wants.
Yeah, I think that, that's a key thing I see too, is oftentimes licensing deals are conflated as lead gen deals. And someone comes to you with this great idea. When I was at Meredith, someone came to us marketing credit cards, and we're going to do branded credit cards. And we were going to have this great family circle credit card with all these tools in the back that helped you manage your household budget and your groceries and everything that she would want as the chief household officer. But at the end of the day, it was, what they really wanted was for me to go out and sell their credit cards with my name on it. And if I sold one, I'd get a fee. And then you really have to bring in that acquisition cost and understand that, just because you're a media company, going out and acquiring customers for this specific product, it may be within the audience you have, but people who want enough of that particular product, you probably have to do lead gen and acquisition beyond your organic audience. And the cost of that, compared with what your potential royalty revenue could be, often you'll be on the wrong side of that equation.
I've been on online, my answer is more in general with online publishing. I've been doing it since 1994. And I just spoke at college students recently, and I said, I embrace the fact that I've had so many failures since 1994. And that in and of itself is the lesson. Product-wise, I've been involved with 2 travel books, a record label. Someone approached me about a pasta sauce where I had to embrace my Italian authenticity. Oh, and there's about 24 others. And very often with the staff now, the lesson that came out of it, I will say very honestly, tell me where I've screwed up, or if there's a meeting with the staff and I kind of see that moment of pause, I'll say afterwards, I really want you to tell me where I'm wrong, I expect to be. And it's expressing to them, I can still be a leader and embrace that possible failure. And I will say to the team, you know what, I've reevaluated the whole process. You guys have told me where it's wrong, and I see it, and I'm okay with that. So I think especially in this industry, right now we're all about brand. And X number of years ago, we were about playing the game of ARB and that was the big thing. And then before that was this, and before that, and every time there's that moment, oh my God, it's podcast, oh my God, do you have a blog? Have you heard a blog yet? And you can do it. And I feel as if we don't know it. We're fooling ourselves if we think we know everything in this. And I approach every meeting and go, I know nothing. I know nothing. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Dominick, kudos to you. You're an enlightened leader, and that's to your credit.
I'm an insecure leader who accepts that.
Okay, all right. Either way, but let's talk about that then from a product development strategy. Top down versus bottom up. How do you guys within your organizations invite staff members to say, we really should be doing a shoppable, tasty recipe app?
So the fun secret is we actually tried to do this shoppable recipe integration 2 years ago when I first started. And in that scenario, it was much more top-down, where the idea came from the business team. We'd been chatting with Walmart. We thought there was this obvious integration within the Tasty app that we could essentially just have widgets in the app that drove to products that were contextually relevant to the recipe that would drive sales. And it bombed. Literally no one clicked on it. No one bought anything. It did not do well. Because again, from a user utility standpoint, it added no value to the experience. So the second time around, the product team actually reapproached me and was like, remember that thing we tried to do 2 years ago? We think we can do it again, but this is how we'd approach it. And we want to be more involved in the process. So this time around, I would actually say the product team kind of entirely led the project. I very much essentially made the relationship with Walmart and figured out the economics and kind of policed the teams to make sure that from a business standpoint, things were moving in the right direction. And now it's been a wild success. So I think my biggest learning from there is business people should not be product people. And I think I've been involved in that process now, and very much I am kind of the ultimate decision maker because it's my partnership that I'm leading. But at the end of the day, I defer to them on all the big decisions and the process and the roadmap. And it's just, I've been able to see the wild difference in what the execution looks like and how it has now become a success.
How about you guys? How do you approach this? Where did DIYU come from?
That came from the editors. So we did the same thing. We had a brainstorm with our editorial team and what are the assets that this brand has and how could we pack, and things, things that I'd never even heard of, like SketchUp files and much more complicated things for building. And we actually took all those ideas and we threw it into a conjoint study. So that actually made it really fair and everybody wanted to see the results and where did we see internally, and we used an internal as well as an external audience to see what are the assets that people were interested in. And it was really interesting because we market DIYU to our internal audience pretty accessibly. So that wasn't that interesting to them. They knew it, but the external audience thought it was incredible. Our internal audience loves our books. If you're able to put a book into a package, they'll buy it. So we kind of conflated all that together and built a package and this kind of premium product around DIYU and our other assets to sell at a premium subscription, and that's how we came up with it. But it did come from all the ideas of the editorial
And that's
team.
Insider.
That's
the premium
Insider,
product.
yeah.
Okay. Elise, how about you?
Yeah, well, I think when you have a strong creative leader who's really trying to think, future forward about what's going on in media and all these emerging platforms, and it does feel like they pop up all the time. Now it's podcasts, now it's this. But, at one of our brands, Popular Science, we have a really strong creative leader there. He's done a great job on the brand across the board in both our print and digital products. And he's really been the driving force behind our very successful podcast, The Weirdest Thing I Learned This Week. And it's highly entertaining if you haven't heard it. I think it does stand out in the podcast space. And we've just entered into a co-production agreement with ITV to turn it into an unscripted broadcast product. So that will be a non-advertising revenue product for the company. So we'll work to diversify revenue. It will work to create a new franchise for us in the weirdest thing. So from a trademark perspective, we're all over the weirdest thing. The podcast opens up every, hey weirdos, and let's get some other weirdos to subscribe. And if you know any weirdos, have them subscribe. And there's probably a few weirdos right here, so you should all get on there and take a listen. So it's just a different way to think about partnering, with this thing that they've created. And now my team's been able to take it out onto the street and say, how do we get this? We've sold out 3 live events in Manhattan in a small venue on the Lower East Side. So now how do we take that up and kind of in scale? And I think yesterday the woman from Condé Nast made a good point. Start small. Really it was just like, the editorial kids threw it together. They found the bar on the Lower East Side. They said, we're going to do a live show. They brought their equipment in, and they did a live show, and it didn't take a whole lot of, selling.
Those young editorial kids.
They're just get it going, man.
Okay, let me ask you about something a little bit off to the side here. So we're in the age of the influencer still. Is there an influencer strategy that you guys use as it relates to affiliate, as it relates to some of the more direct-to-consumer plays that you have, or not? Does that damage the authenticity? Does it help? What do you guys think?
We have a creators program at Buzzfeed, and it's somewhere that the business is taking a big bet. So far, for our affiliate business, we very much have kind of stuck to our editorial team. And where I'd say we're differentiated from our competitors is we don't speak to our audience from a place of authority. It's more so we're like your trusted friend who's done the work of surfacing the best products. So we're almost like the anti-influencer, I would say. We rely really heavily on user reviews. Again, we kind of try to validate our editorial claims with things outside of just saying we're BuzzFeed and this is the thing you have to buy. It's really worked for us, but I think that also is because BuzzFeed's a brand that was born out of being kind of mass and viral and engaging versus kind of building this
Approachable,
exactly.
approachable.
So for us, I would say influencer marketing gets it is a very different approach. I actually think micro-influencers are more relevant for kind of what our business looks like, but so far we haven't done much to tap them into our business.
Well, I ran a somewhat large-scale influencer program for Walmart in my former role. I don't know if you've seen any of the BHG Live Better content. You've probably seen some of it. And, it was interesting because, as you know, Meredith has a long-term direct-to-retail partnership also with Walmart. I ran that for 10 years. Part of that is we were obligated to run media to support it. When I first started in the role, nothing existed at Meredith except print, so all the support was in print. After 10 years of evolution of media, it was everything, including social and influencer programs, and we put together a network of, at first, 30 women who were in the homemaking, blogger, DIY kind of space. They were great magnifiers of the product, created great content with it. After a while, we dramatically reduced the number of influencers from 30 to 10, took the 10 that had the highest quality content production, had the best reach, some combination thereof, and then we put more paid behind their content to kind of push it farther. And so instead of allocating money for 20 other smaller influencers, we just reallocated that money to magnify the message of the 10, and it was a great part of the program.
Influencer?
That's my first reaction. Usually when I hear things that I don't like, I try to understand it at least and say, what am I missing here? And I, as a Catholic, almost forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Many years ago, someone brought up influencers, and I kind of priced it all out. How much did this influencer cost? How much, et cetera. And I found a variant of your strategy was more the reality. I might have possibly created an influencer, hiring a model, might have possibly created an audience. And the net cost to create that reality was so much less than finding an influencer. And we're talking within a really tight time span. My influencer was invited to Disney cruises events. And I was like, this is out of control. This is not reality going on at this moment. But it did show me that there's a pragmatic point of view one can take in that do you need the influencer, or did you need that message to get across in a very controlled manner? And I think you spoke perfectly to it. Then maybe the influencer created the content for cheaper. Then one's organization can do the sales. Operationally, I realized after that lesson, no, you could just do it yourself and just have an influencer, Susie was invited everywhere. Yeah, it'd be more influential, exactly.
Okay, I think we're getting tight on time, so I have one question I really want to ask all of you, and it is, what is the best product idea that you have that you've never told anybody? That you can share with us here on this stage. We won't tell anybody.
Never told anybody?
Never told anybody.
I tell everyone everything.
A product that you're excited about, or that you could substitute and just say, it'd be a wild idea, what might be fun, something you're just thinking about in the shower, or when
You mean a physical product or an idea business-wise?
Business-wise.
Fine, yeah, I'll tell everything. I don't care.
I guess I have one, but
Okay.
I've told some people.
Okay.
I really want to make a content site that's focused on immigrant moms and grandmothers. Just as a child of refugee parents, I feel like there's a generation that's getting older and their knowledge will soon not be with us. So I think it'd be really cool to have somewhere where you have like recipes and hacks and just like the things, and I don't think it has to necessarily just be immigrant moms, but I think just like making sure we're capturing that generation of knowledge that will soon no longer be with us.
That's great.
Well, I've told a couple people this, but this is my secret business idea. It's called Nice Ice, and it's essentially a mobile app that delivers you really high quality cocktail ice on demand. So like if you're in
Love
your
it.
apartment and you're like having friends over,
Love it.
and let's face it, no one wants your Half Moon refrigerator ice that smells like 2 years of stale groceries.
No, we want nice ice,
We want
please.
nice ice. So you take out your phone, you open the app, you push the Nice Ice button, you put in your information. Of course, you've signed up already for the app, and they have all your data.
And I'm sorry, what kind of ice do you get?
Well,
nice
ice. And there's options. I mean, you could get different square ones, like the ones that come out of those Japanese ice machines that are super nice, or you could get
For
the
your
large,
whiskey.
or you get your large round balls. I mean, there's different ways that you can go. So
I love this.
Nice
I hope there's
ice.
some venture capitalists out here listening that are ready to fund some of these.
we're in our A round raising
okay,
funds.
you're still raising money. Got it.
Exactly.
I had this conversation recently with my best friend, and a lot of you have gotten to know me better. He said, when people approach the pool, you first ask how deep it is normally. But Dominick, you just jump in and then go, do I know how to swim? And I kind of realized, he said, the secret to what you've done is you don't really give it blank and you just do it. Honestly, there's been very few. At times, I don't know, that's what gets me in trouble. I started a nonprofit for the homeless because I was just really pissed off one day. I started a scholarship fund for learning disabled journalists in Long Island. And I called the national board and they said, well, there are no learning disabled journalists. I said, that's why I'm making the scholarship. That's exactly why. We have it every year. And actually, MediaPost is donating to that, and I think that's awesome.
I beg to differ on that point.
That's exactly what I said, by far. I'm very much the advocate. If you have that idea, like Nice Ice, you do it. You just jump in that pool and you try it. And I feel that if you succeed, hooray, I'm thrilled, like the nonprofit worked or the scholarship worked. And if you fail, you also in turn succeed, I feel. And there's so many things I have done. I've probably launched 26 sites over these past 25 years. Maybe 5 of them made profits, but I attribute the profit of the 5 due to the failures of the 20. And some of them I actually have 3 sites. My wife, when she helps me with the counting, she makes fun of me for because they're just sitting there. And she's, what is this site? Never heard of it. I said, it makes $1,000 a year, and we're happy with the $1,000. Thank you very much. We'll just leave it doing its thing. But that in turn is a success. So I'm much more the advocate at times when you have an idea, and Tim says, do you have an idea? You better have started it. So I really want Nice Ice. Not regular ice, no stinky ice, nice one.
Couldn't we integrate Nice Ice into a cocktail
Listen,
recipe?
everyone wants everyone
like
You're going too
ice
far.
with this
Everyone
too?
wants
Just the ice.
Everyone wants bespoke ice. Let's face it.
Okay, Leora.
Mine isn't as noble. I mean, well, yes, your nonprofits.
No. Nice Ice was awesome, so you gotta keep going.
I get frustrated. I think a hotel chain, I know there's like an inventory issue, but should open so that you get a full 24 hours. So it's not just 3 to 11. I'm so frustrated by that if you check in at 3, then you have till 3 the next day. And that's how
Brilliant.
you pay.
Brilliant. Okay.
Came with nice ice. We even
Steve,
more
I should have
happy.
led with that.
That's
What
good.
was I
Well,
thinking, man?
Tim,
That was the magic
honest
there.
to God, that was one of the best rap questions that I've heard on a panel. That was great. And Elise, speaking as the publisher around this event, if you make money on Nice Ice, we want an affiliate cut. That. We have time for some final questions of the panel.
Don't be shy.
Okay, I want to pull this back to really the reason that that publishers are pursuing product development now is because of the shrinkage in traditional advertising opportunities. So all of you reflect a little bit on, so far, how have you moved the needle in your organizations in terms of moving away from traditional reliance on traditional advertising, and these new and innovative products are actually increasing rev share and changing the composition of your revenue picture?
I think it's changing the composition, but we're actually adding ads back into everything, right? So our subscription box is now a sampling opportunity for advertisers. So we're actually building new opportunities. I think a lot of advertisers now want a hybrid deal, right? So they want advertising that ties into affiliate, and that's key. And we're really building out those partnerships, and that's also a learning experience because ad sales is not used to that as well. So we're actually kind of building our expertise. Sponsorship and DIYU is one of our biggest differentiators in that space. So we've kind of built the basis, and now we're bringing the advertising revenue back, which actually helps the bottom line and helps the revenue, the profitability of each of those products.
Again, it's sort of, we've heard this, I think, a couple of times already, this idea of publishers engaging their marketing partners in full funnel activity, and that's actually influencing everything now.
Yep, and the same goes for us. I would say affiliate is definitely growing the bottom line, but it's also growing kind of the size of the pie because we're now also able to show advertisers that we're not just driving views and engagement, but we're actually driving conversion. So we have a new data point to speak to when our sellers are out in market. So it's actually supporting our advertising business, and it is creating new inventory that, again, you can sell against or have product integration within. So it's essentially increasing the places where advertisers can play.
Yeah, I think, broadly what I've done in the media space over the last 20 years at a high level is unleash value around trademark and what is the value of a trademark of a property. And the example, I'll give is if you take a brand like, just say, Vogue, right, like the most popular magazine in the world, and if you just shut down all the media and you just said, I'm going to auction off this name Vogue for all the trademark registrations it has, there'd be a value to that brand that's not recognized on anybody's balance sheet. And then if you could take that trademark and start to create other contracts around it that have ongoing revenue, like license agreements. So if you had a brand that maybe wasn't as famous as Vogue, but was a well-known brand, media's running out, you're thinking about shutting it down, you're thinking about selling it, when you actually go to transact, if you have these trademark licensing agreements attached to the asset, when you go to transact, you will find a higher multiple for the trademark. And some of these trademarks get sold in the aftermarket just as trademarks. And so that's kind of a little bit of less of a transactional answer.
Since I came on board Inquisitr, the focus was the traditional advertising because that was the bread and butter. And I think we got it, fortunately, up 12-fold from when I started. And 12-fold increase, I was like, wow, that's great. So I look at it more like a separate pie now. We've gotten this pie, I don't want to mess with it. Now here's another pie I got to look at and increase. And it's tiny, but I have to get that affiliate further and not mess with the originality. The original, we have this traditional media pie that's grown 12-fold in 14 months, 16 months. Let's celebrate that growth and not lose that growth, as well as to open up this one.
Tim, panel, thanks very much. That was a great ending.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're going to